The driving force that I need to succeed is financial stability.
I guess my question is like how early on do you feel like these ideals are implemented onto you? Like as a woman, we're raised as like the backbone for the man.
I think once the family realizes, okay, you are reliable in a sense, or you have something to bring to the table, that's when, you have more expectations. I mean, the men in my family are very much like, it's just work, 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 work. Like, you bottle whatever you got inside you. You're not going to worry about putting that onto your family. And it's just kind of like you suffer in silence, which is obviously not the right way to do it. Hi everyone, this is Manny. I'm a student here at Northeastern Illinois University. Welcome to Off Cue, where we're unmasking men, mental health, and modern masculinity. Here we talk about health, culture, and the stories that shape how we show up for ourselves and for each other. We'll unpack some of the data, share real experiences, and talk about what needs to change, not just in our world, but right here on our own campus. Before we get started, I want to introduce our guest for today. This is Rosie.
Hello, everyone.
She is chapter president for Gamma Phi Omega here at Northeastern and founder of After Hours Run Club. We also have Isaiah, who's a student ambassador for NEIU's admissions team, student success agency, and executive assistant of Semillas del Futuro Chicago. All right, let's jump in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I have some points here from the State of American Men Report 2025. First thing up, economic anxiety is at the forefront of men's worries. Mm-hmm. It's a key driver of men's distress. And men who experience economic anxiety are 16.3 times more likely to report suicidal thoughts. For most men, being a provider remains the defining feature of manhood. So how does defining manhood through financial success affect men's identity and mental health?
So I come from a Southwest community of Little Village, and I would say opportunity is something that is rare for me, right? So really the driving force that I need to succeed is financial stability and wealth, which I would say I'm still trying to get, right? I'm only a sophomore here at NEIU. I'm trying to do my thing, but I would say it is mentally straining at sometimes because I think of the future. I think of like my family's future, and then I think to myself like, oh, if I don't succeed, then where is my family gonna be? Where am I gonna be? Right? So my parents had always pushed me to do more and be more in education because in my household they said that you need to go to school. Go to school. You need to do good in your academics so that you get a good paying job and you can get a lot of money, right? So kind of that driving force to eventually be a provider has like just driven my actions now. However, those actions also come with downsides of mental stress, burnout. I know a lot of us students have burnout, and it's something that we usually don't know how to deal with, right? The first time I burnt out, I was like, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just take a nap, right? That was my first way of dealing with it, just taking a nap. But after a while, it's like I can't put it off because, like for example, homework, I got an essay due like next week, but I still haven't started on it because I'm worrying about this assignment for this class, and then it just piles up, and then it goes on and on and on, and that burnout really gets to the mental side. Right?
Most definitely, man.
Yeah.
I think also as a man, like you kind of grow up with this idea of, oh, I have to be good at this and that, and I have to be a provider, and I have to make sure that all these boxes are crossed off. Yeah. So it's like, if I don't have that one thing or those multiple things, then I'm not a good partner. Then I'm not a good man, mm-hmm. And that's when you're going to go into some self-doubt or really just, am I adequate enough?
Mm-hmm. I guess my question is like, how early on do you feel like these ideals are implemented onto you, like from when you were born that you had to be a provider, or like is it a certain age group, or has it just been like once you were an adult they were like you can't be, you have to be a provider? Like I guess that's like one of my, I've always been curious about, because like me growing up, it was like, yes, men are provider, but you can't depend on a man, because if they're not doing what they need to do, then you kind of have to like do it for yourself, like for the family, because you, like as a woman, we're raised as like the backbone for the man. So I'm just curious, like when for you, like either of you guys, when you were being raised, was it implemented early on, or like as you were like hitting into adolescent?
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, just growing up, it's very much like I gotta get it. Like I gotta get it on my own. Like I really can't support on other people, and it's not to the point where I'm a young man, and then it's like, okay, cool. Like I kind of have more responsibilities now or expectations. So I think once the family realizes, okay, you are reliable in a sense, or you have something to bring to the table, that's when, you have more expectations.
Yeah.
So I just think, I don't know, there's a fine line, but it can get very overwhelming.
Yeah. For me, like, so about over a decade ago, my father passed due to reasons, right? And after he passed, the only male figures in the house were me and my grandfather, right? At that point, I was like 7 years old. So I wasn't sure, like, I was still young, still like, innocent, you could say. But after the years went on, like I would say about when I was in like 8th grade going into high school, I kind of like grasped the idea and understood that like I was next up. I was the next one to be the household provider, right? Because after my grandparents, they go to a better place. The last person in the Rodriguez family is me, right? For being the male, right? And my parents always like my mom, she always said like, you're gonna be next up. You're gonna be the next provider. So that's why you need to go to school, which I understood, right? I didn't really feel like a great amount of weight. Like, of course, I want to help my family. Yeah, I'm going to be there for them. And I will always be a person that they could look up to, as well as, ask for assistance and help, because I'm going to be that person. I'm driven by my family's like what they sacrificed to give me the stepping stones for my success. I'm using that as drive so that when I need to be a provider, I will be, right?
Okay, I just want to say thank you for opening up about that. Like I feel like even speaking about like your father passing is like a lot, even though like it's been years. But also, like, do you feel like you started implementing that mindset of like, I need to provide because my mom mentioned it? Or do you feel like it was like heavy, like she was, you need to provide, you need to provide, you need to provide?
Yeah, so it was more of just like because she mentioned it, right? Because again, this happened when I was I was young, right? So I didn't really grasp the idea, but as time passed by, I've gotten more knowledge, more knowledgeable. As you grow up, you see more things, how the world is. And it came to a point around like my adolescence of like teenage years, where I understood that like it's gonna happen. It's gonna be like inevitable. Like it's gonna come to a point where like it's gonna be my turn, right? But something I want to mention is it's not like that with everyone, right? Every family dynamic is always different, right? This could be due to race, could be due to gender, could be due to ethnicity, economic, like social class. So there's a lot of different factors that play into how people grow up and how they perceive the provider complex, right? So since I was a part of a Hispanic household, my grandparents, they fought to be in this country. They worked many years and they've been retired, and like they were the main providers for like me and my mom and my aunts too. So without them, like we wouldn't be where we are now.
I just want to ask, are you the oldest or the?
I'm actually the youngest, so
Okay.
it's
So it's more interesting because, like,
yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
least from my perspective, like, as sorry to interrupt,
No,
like,
no,
okay,
of course.
so for me, I'm the oldest of five, and
Mhm.
my youngest is a little boy.
Right,
He's the
right.
only boy, only grandson, only like son from
Mhm.
both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like interesting because it's like I just want to hear from the perspective of like, do you feel like the family pressures were put onto you, or like you were doing it to yourself? Because like, at least from the raising the child perspective, like with my little brother, my mom's always been like, I need to raise your brother to be a provider. I need to teach him how to do this, but it's like it's different because my mom, instead of being like he's just a provider, she's also taught him how to be in tune with his feelings,
Yeah.
and
yeah.
like being able to like be affectionate and openly like outwardly affectionate. And so I was just kind of like curious, like, do you feel like having the pressures of like those certain pressures kind of like, do you feel like it made you shut people out, or is it like you were able to open up with other people and then just being like, I don't know if that makes sense, like my thought is making sense.
No, yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say like for me, I kind of like put it on myself only
Okay.
because I kind of made two futures for myself.
Okay.
One where I become financially successful, wealthy, I get a lot of connections with, you could say like CEOs with a lot of influence and stuff like that, where I could elevate my like academics and whatnot, so that I could like move out of that low income neighborhood and become middle class, possibly start a family, and all that, right? So I pictured myself in that future, and as well as the other future where I don't take advantage of those opportunities, right? Because, and something that my mom did communicate though, she said, Isaiah, it's okay if you don't want to go to school, right? It's okay if you don't want to do college, right? Just try to find something that you love to do and what you want to do, and make sure that you give it your all. Give it to be your full potential with what you want to do, right? And when she told me that, I was really like looking at those two futures, and I say, you know what? Do I want to take advantage and the opportunities that my family has, like I said before, the stepping stones and the pathways that they've created for me, or do I just want to kind of go off of that and do my own thing, right? And I want to pay respect to the sacrifices that my family has made for me, and go through that path of trying to like continue like higher education, and do all these and take advantage of all these opportunities that I'm given. And I'm okay with that. And I accept it. So it's not more of like I feel forced to, it's more of like I want to because for my family success. Right?
Okay.
So but like I said, it's not the same with all families, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
and like not to steer away from you, because like from the perspective of like an only boy, now I kind of want to switch over to Manny, because like you're the oldest, but you also have a younger brother that's the youngest.
Yeah.
So like, do you feel like you guys are raised kind of like the same of provider, or do you feel like it kind of gets watered down just because you're the oldest? Do you feel like you bear more of the responsibility compared to your little brother?
I'd say most definitely the dynamic changes a bit. I mean, growing up, like my parents weren't really around, so like they're making money, they're not really home. So then it's like kind of like Isaiah was saying, like I'm next in line. So at that point, it's like I'm making sure that they're fed, I'm making sure that they're changed, like emotionally, are they doing all right? Like how's homework going? XYZ. So just having that already instilled in me growing up, it's just kind of like that is my normal, you know.
But do you
So
feel like it goes to your brother too, like that mentality, or do you feel like it kind of, since you're kind of taking over that like provider mentality, he's not really growing up? Not saying that he's not growing up with the provider mentality, or he doesn't feel that need to be a provider.
I think definitely he doesn't feel that need. There's not like that strong urge, especially when he's by himself. You know what I mean? He's also independent. He's, you know, going to school, doing his thing, making sure he's like, you know, eating. He's sufficient at this point, you know. I'm not
Yeah,
changing any diapers. So I think what he does do though is like watch by example. So he
yeah,
sees just the path that I've walked and how I've overcame a lot of obstacles, and he's able to be like, okay, cool. Well, now I know how to tackle that issue, or I know how to
yeah,
go around that obstacle. And the same thing with my sister, because she's the middle child. So then she's also obviously learned from me, and then he's also learned from her. So it's like, okay, there was a mistake there. Maybe that wasn't, you know, handled very well. How can I overcome that?
mhm,
But I think as a fellow man, it's our job to like continue to support other men, especially young people,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
because a lot of times they might not have like the best role models. So for me, I see a lot of myself in him. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, what are your values? Morally, would you, you know, do this instead of going the opposite way? Like, let's go to the gym. Like, let's hang out. Let's, you know, let's do something that we both want to do where I can have those moments of intimacy.
yeah. It's those deeper conversations that you don't really have on a daily basis, right? Um, is what's most important because, like
Hmm.
you said, they follow by example,
Exactly.
right? So if they follow the examples of you actually communicating and actually having those deeper conversations, then they could say, "Hey, this is okay to talk about. This is something that I'm comfortable with," right? I would say like for me personally, like when I was younger, like I would say in my like eighth grade to ninth grade, 10th grade, right? Um, I was around a lot of like, you know, people my age,
Hmm.
right? I would say like immature in a way, you know. Um, but we, I never really had that like a person
Hmm.
or someone to really like communicate with of how like I really felt,
So,
right?
do you think like you being with your little brother and like do you feel like that kind of creates a space for like vulnerability?
I'd say it does,
Because
but
since you didn't have that
mhm.
kind
Yeah,
of
I
thing.
didn't. Yeah,
But it's really up to the individual. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If I wasn't, I don't think as dedicated to trying to not only be financially sound, but like emotionally available or like focusing on those types of aspects, I don't think I'd be able to instill that into
What
the next generation.
what growing up for you got for you two, what was seen as emotionally available? Like I kind of want to like talk about that
Sure.
because like
mm,
I
yeah,
feel like men have like different ideals of like what emotionally vulnerable like what
Hmm.
emotional vulnerability
Hmm.
looks like. So I kind of just want to see like what your head's at.
yeah,
Most definitely. I mean, the men in my family are very much, you got to work. You got to
Yeah, but like what
work
is
your ass off.
emotional vulnerability
Right.
as a man?
But that doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. Like it's just work, 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 work. Like you bottle whatever you got inside you. You're not gonna worry about putting that onto your family, and it's just kind of like you figure it out your own. You suffer in silence, which is obviously not the right way to do it, because then it comes up in other aspects, or you get to a boiling point and it just explodes. You know. Um, so for me, luckily, like there's a lot of women in my family, so I think learning from them or seeing how they interact together or like how they resolve issues, that was really good for me. Because if not, then who am I gonna look to? Because I can't look at those men for that emotional support. So I have no choice but to look at the women in my family.
yeah. That's interesting because it was quite different for me, for me. So when my father had passed, right, I felt like comfortable that he was the person that I could talk to, right? So like it would be like my sister with my mom and then me with my dad, right? Because we were both, male, right? So we had, like I would like he would have taught me how to shave or tie a tie, stuff like that, right? That um since I didn't have that anymore, I felt uncomfortable, right? So in my household, it was me. As of right now, still. So it's me, my sister, my older sister. She's 2 years older. And then my mother, my grandma, my grandpa, and then my two aunts. Right. Um, so all from my mom's side. Right. So we just live all in my Mexican family. Right. And then my dad's side, because we're Puerto Rican as well, and they live all in Humboldt Park. So my aunts, my my other grandparents, my other cousins, they're all in Humboldt Park, so we don't see them as often. So the household is just with my mom's side. But growing up, I kind of felt uncomfortable because I'm like, can I talk to my aunts about this? I don't. Maybe not. Can I talk to my sister about this? Maybe not. Can I talk to my mom about this? And then can I talk to my grandparents? And then it's like with my grandparents, they're already like, they were older, right? Like a 15-year-old teenager in this time in today's society talking about issues with older grandparents that grew up a totally different way. That's how I saw it, and I didn't really feel like comfortable. Not necessarily because like um they were like older, mainly because it's like I knew they wouldn't understand like my point of view, like how I was feeling, right? So because of that, I that's why I was more quiet. That's why I was more like to myself about my feelings and about how things really made me feel. Um and because of that, I was kind of influenced to not talk about those types of things. And when I transitioned into high school and I was around like people my age, right? Um I would like have good times with them, good laughs and whatnot. But the things that we didn't have was those deep conversations. So with everything piling up on each other, like it influenced me and kind of like forced me to just hide my emotions, boil them up, keep them inside so that people like don't see like, oh, those are kind of cringy. Like, oh, why are you sad? Why are you mad? Like stuff like that. Why are you so emotional? Right? You're not supposed to be like that, right? Yeah, and and then at times it did overwhelm, right? It overwhelmed inside me, and then I burnt out. I yeah, and it was just like a very transformative experience because then there was times I would be crying and I'm like, wow, I haven't cried in years. This is the first time I haven't cried in years, right? And I really like looked at that point, like what I said to myself, I haven't cried in years, and I was like, wow,
Wow.
like
Thank you for sharing that.
yeah,
That was really insightful.
hmm
I think with that, we're going to move on to our second point,
yeah,
which is men's views on masculinity are becoming more restrictive.
hmm
Since 2017, men's endorsement of restrictive man box beliefs has increased. Men who strongly agree with these statements are 6.3 times more likely to report suicidal ideation. So, my question is, why do rigid gender roles persist even when they clearly harm men?
that's a great question. I think give me like a like
Rosie, you want
yeah
to?
I just
yeah
feel like systematically, like men kind of build those barriers and like those restrictions for themselves. And I don't know, because it's like you see artists or even like athletes, they'll like wear nail polish and then they're kind of like badgered or they're like crucified and like, oh, why they're wearing nail polish. And then it's like a question of like sexuality and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting for you to ask that just because it's like men are the ones that are kind of making these viewpoints.
Exactly.
But it's also like no one's really like it's only I feel like it's men kind of attacking other men usually, and I don't care if an athlete wears nail polish, but it's like a whole question of like again sexuality and it's
Most
like
definitely.
why does that even I feel like it's weird because it's like when you're in a box and you don't fit that box, then it's like the conversation of like what is your sexuality that often pops up, and it's like okay, I don't know,
yeah, but
I don't know what's your take.
yeah, I agree on the aspect where it's like men also kind of like hate on men in a way when it comes to that kind of stuff. However, there are aspects where women also do the same thing
Oh,
to
for
men.
sure.
Yeah, for sure,
I
right?
mean, women do it for themselves as well too.
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of like
Yeah.
if like a significant other kind of does something that could be seen as feminine to whoever, um the partner, like the woman in the relationship, is like, why are you being feminine? You're
Right.
supposed to be like my man, right? You're supposed to be like my husband. Like, why are you kind of like acting like this? Not necessarily them asking that, but more of the fact of just like, um, if they see something that they don't like or it doesn't check the box and it checks some entirely different box, then that's not the person for them.
Yeah.
Right. And because of that, I would say men kind of get the wrong idea. Like, oh man, I could have done something different.
So it's just the fear of rejection.
I would say
be
so.
the-
A lot of
It's
it's fear.
it's literally just
A lot
fear
of
of
it is
rejection
fear.
at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
then.
Yeah, it could be a fear of rejection, but it's not just that as well. Because remember, there's so many different like aspects. For example, intersectionality, right? People have different religion and race and different ethnic backgrounds and different cultures. The way people are raised here in the United States is not the way they're raised over there in Europe, right? Or Asia. There are so many different ways that people come up and how they are raised and born and the type of ideologies that there are in their mind that really influences how men are perceived, right? And that's why it's kind of like it's kind of tricky and kind of difficult to kind of like express who you are as a man in today's society because there's so many different eyes, there's so many different opinions that are
Right.
on you, and you're afraid like, oh, is this person gonna judge me? Is this person gonna make me feel bad because of this?
So do you think social media has played a role into creating that box? Because like you said, there's a lot more eyes now, right? Like before what I don't even know when the first computer was made, but like social media was like prevalent in like even like third world countries or like stuff like that.
It's definitely a societal thing. You know, I think it comes from all parties. Right now you have like the term like performative male, which is kind of
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
yeah. So it's kind of like a man who's acting different, you know, like out of the ordinary, maybe trying to get like in like the female gaze, you know? So
Yeah.
like for example, you got like that meme where it's like the guy and he's got his matcha and he's got his like his tote bag and he's reading like feminist literature or
Kind
something.
of trying to fulfill those standards of other people's like
Yeah.
trying to fulfill other people's standards so that you can be seen as like
Like a respected figure.
like
I
a
would say
respected
so.
figure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not even just that too, but
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh, you're trying to do the most because you want XYZ. Whereas it's just kind of like, well, maybe I just want to read a good book and
Exactly. Or
drink
what if I
something.
like matcha
You
with
know?
cold foam and 2 pumps of brown sugar from Starbucks because it's nice and tasty. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
right. Most definitely.
You
But I think
got your drink down.
it definitely comes back to the nail polish thing though, because it's like, then what are you? You know, because if I can't put you in the man box, if you're not, you know, strong, and if you're not into sports, and if you don't, you know, drink beers at, like on a Sunday, you know, it's like, well, then where do you fit? You know, or like you're different than I am, so of course, like I'm gonna push you away, or I'm going to judge you from over here.
What does being a scripted man look like to you?
The only emotions he shows is anger.
Everything relies on me and that everything is on my shoulders.
The men in the media that we saw had to be tough. Do I have to be in that role to get friends?
I grew up going to rodeos every weekend. It was what we did, and there were people who judged you because you didn't fit that stereotype.
I was the captain of a soccer team. COVID brought to light the actual friends I had. I went from being the man of the world to no one cares. I looked through validation on TikTok. I had a fake audience that would fill me with likes and views and comments.
We're raised to fit within a box. We're told this is how you should be because this is how a man is.
It was easier to not exist than to try and fix myself. That answer should never be the answer.
It wasn't until I graduated high school that I realized I could be whoever I wanted to be. I want to open up. I want to be involved. Being open with each other really pushed me.
I'm in college now. We usually have weekly meetings of topics to talk about, people who want to listen, people who need to reflect, need to open up.
Now I know that your struggle belongs with mine and my struggle belongs with you.
Being able to listen to each other and have those conversations, we can grow as people. I love being out in nature. Some of my major passions are photography and music.
My friends and family see me as a bright light.
There's so much the world has to offer that you just don't really know until you start making connections with people. That has completely changed my life. Being unscripted means living in your own truth, being authentic.
Resilience, integrity, just you.
Well, that leads me to my next question for you, Rosie. What would you say is like the ideal man for you?
I don't know. I feel like it's complicated a little bit because I kind of have an alpha personality, I feel like. And for me, like I'm going to school for marketing and I'm trying to like build a business, and like everything that I do is about building a business, right? But I would need a support system. Like if I were to have a partner, I would need a really good foundation of support. But I feel like it's kind of like weird because in society, it's always men getting the support. Like where I want to be a business person, or I want to go to law school or be a doctor, and then it's usually the women, from what I've seen, it's usually the women supporting them. So for me, it's just a partner, like a male that can support me. And I don't know, I don't mind being the working wife and then having a stay-at-home husband. So, but I need them like affectionate around my kids. Like I want someone that's affectionate, because I'm not really an affectionate person. I'm not very someone that is openly affectionate, and I don't know if that has anything to do with like how I was raised or any of that. But like the ideal man would be someone that is driven in their personal, like whatever they want to do, like they're just driven in that niche that they're in. But also being, I don't even, not necessarily like being a provider of like having a house or anything like that, because like I'm building that for myself at the end of the day. It's more like how a provider in emotions. Like if our kids were to go to you about something, am I gonna be okay knowing that you did what you need to do? Or like, am I gonna feel safe that you provided all the resources and emotional support?
I see.
If that makes sense. Like if our daughter got her period for the first time and I'm on a work trip, is he gonna be able to be there and like comfort her, or is he gonna try to send her off with his, like the grandma? And I feel like in a lot of provider roles, there is also that thing where they don't need to have emotional vulnerability. Like I feel like some men feel like they can't, but I feel like some men weaponize that they don't need to.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like
when you say weaponize, what do you mean by
like that they'll be like, oh, it's your mom's job. Like I've seen male men, like even not even just my family, like with friends, like the daughter like growing up like will be crying to something to the father, and then he doesn't understand, right? Like say he doesn't get where she's coming from, or he just doesn't have experience in that topic, and they'll just be like, you know what, go with your aunt or call your grandma or call your mom, or like do this, like go everywhere else but me.
Okay.
Because I don't have that emotion.
I do want to touch on the example that you gave, because let's say your daughter, right, for the sake of,
I mean,
sake of
like,
argument,
yeah, for the sake of women.
she is going through her period. So how would you expect a man to show up for her when he's never had that experience before?
I think just being able to like, okay, because like for a woman, right, for the first time that like if they get their period, it's scary, and especially like if your mom is on a work trip and you're too embarrassed to go to anyone else, so you go to your dad. Like there's ways to go about it without being like, oh, have someone else deal with it. Like reaching out to the mother and being like, hey, our daughter just got her first period. What do I need to do to make sure that she feels seen and supported? So right?
Like would you say like not necessarily they need to know what to do?
They don't need to know what to do.
Just more of like accepting.
What can I do?
What can I do? Right? So like there's different ways to be a provider without it being toxic. Right? Like you don't have to be like, I'm a provider and I can't be vulnerable. Like, no, you can be a provider with emotions. You can be a provider with, so I feel like men, which kind of goes back to like what we were talking about earlier in this podcast, like men feel like they have to be a provider physically, but you can be a provider mentally. Like it's kind of going with that box. Like they have to be a certain type of provider. Like, no, you can be different types of provider and it still be healthy. I think there's just like this misconception that it's like all toxic. It's all like, we can't be this, we can't be that.
It's not the norm.
Right, it's not the norm. But like you can be a provider and in different ways. And I feel like once you start looking outside of that box of like what it is what is a provider, then you're able to be, I guess, like vulnerable and stuff like that. So yeah, like my perfect man is or my perfect partner. I don't want to say, yeah, my perfect partner is someone that is able to be a provider in terms of like emotional, right? Or just being able to be there and learning, because again, this is all our first time living life. It's all about the human experience. We're all living our life for the first time, so I can't expect you to know how to like help your sister with something, but it's just the fact that you're like, hey, she came to me, so instead of sending her to someone else, let me be there for her in the best way that I can, because they're seeking me for that support.
Right. Yeah. So
And it doesn't even have to be like money.
Yeah. So I would say, like, to add on to that, like, I guess a certain kind of like norm that us men have of being a provider is like you need to be successful. You need to go to work. You need to make
And that's what I
money.
was saying. Like, you guys need to or not you guys, but everyone in society needs to reconstruct what it means to be a provider,
So it's okay
to fight against that.
Of course, yeah. Like, so I was gonna continue.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. But yes, a lot of those like norms are put on of the title of provider, right? But it's okay to like make mistakes. It's okay to be at a low point in your life as a provider. It's You need to like be willing to grow as a person, willing to learn, willing to really like experience new things as a provider. You could still be a provider and do all these things, right? But with society and like today's like norms, it's kind of like you can't do that. You already need to have like your 401k set up. You need.
I think
to
you're focusing on the financial.
Yeah, I would say like
like you're
financially, yeah, but like would you say like the toxic provider kind of like box, would you say it has to do with a lot of like financially, or like what? Like I would say two major things when it comes to that, with that kind of like paints the toxic provider like complex, I would say, is you need to be financially ready and stable to provide for your family, as well as not let emotions get in the way of that.
I feel
I
like
feel like that's like the kind of like perception people have about that. So what would you guys think about that?
I just feel like when it comes to when you think about economic, it has to do with trauma. And for example, like you brought up that your grandparents are immigrants, right? My grandparents are immigrants as well. So like money was always the mentality, right? Like when they crossed the border and they were like, well, my grandparents are like residents now, but like basically when they did whatever they did, right? The whole thing was like having that American dream. And I feel like the American dream kind of dictated the provider route, right? So like if your family grew up with like lower income or grew up as a lower income status, I feel like that provider mentality is molded from that, because it's a lot heavier, because it's like my family did all of this to provide this for me, so what can I do for the next generation and them? So I don't know, I just feel like it comes from your background and the human experience of like what did people go through what did these people go through for me to be here, and how does that I feel like that dictates the mindset of a provider.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Yeah. And then I would say it's okay to not always go up to those standards, because there are times where we do make mistakes, we do fall down, and we do not always what we want to do, right? We might not land that job. We might not get that internship. We may not get that car to go to school and work. We might have to take the bus, right? We might have to do things in our life because of just the way, like you said, social class, certain circumstances. Like, there's so many aspects that kind of like hold you back, right, from kind of like succeeding, so that you can help your family and just be a provider, right? So
I don't think necessarily you need to see it as like stuff that holds you back. I just think like the mindset should be like obstacles, right? Like I don't think like you when you have the mindset, like, and I don't know if this goes with like the provider toxic mindset, or like just what is like, it's, I feel like from the conversations that I've had with you right now, like it's been like yes or no. When it's like, it doesn't have to be like a yes or no. Like, you can't have this, or you can't, or you can. I think it's just very much like it's gonna be delayed. You know, like it's gonna take a while before you get to that point. And I feel like even just having conversations with you, like I see it's like black or white.
It's like make or break it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of weight weighs on like next generations of men, right? For some, obviously, for some families, the next runner up, they have that kind of weight.
Yeah.
But in order to break that cycle of that of the provider, like toxic provider complex, you just really need to say it's okay that I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
It's okay that I'm not doing certain things that, you know, my family wants me to, right? It may, like, for example, it's okay that I may not have a job right now, right? Because I'm looking for a job, right? I want to do something that I'm passionate about, but I'm not. There's not something like that for me right now. So it's more of the fact of the weight that we do carry. It's okay to say, like, hey, I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time right now.
And ask for help.
And that's how we reach out to not only people we're comfortable with, but our family too, because there are some aspects where we may not feel comfortable with, like family. So we might reach out to a friend, right? To a counselor, to a therapist, to a teacher, a professor. But it's important to always kind of have that hand to reach out so that they can actually provide for you.
Right. Well, thank you guys for, you want to add one thing?
I just wanted to ask a question, because you asked me what would be my ideal, like, male, right? But when would you guys consider yourselves your own ideal version of yourself?
That's a good question.
I would say for me, like passion and drive to doing something that I want to do, as well as caring for like my friends and family at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you're not thinking about economic, right? You're thinking about who you are.
Yeah, I'm thinking about who I am, right? I don't really care, like, cause for example, like social work, cause that's my major, right? I know, like, with how the society is and how education has to go now, I would have to go through like a master's program, right?
Right.
That's gonna be like more mental strain. Obviously, I'm gonna have to go through like probably pay more money. I have to do more to get to that point. However, it doesn't matter to me because I'm doing something that I want to do and I'm passionate about, right? And I've communicated this with my family, and they're okay with it because they're saying, you know what you want to do, and you're doing it. And along the way, you're creating opportunities not only for yourself, but for us too. So we support you. And I said, you know what? Yeah, that's what I want to do. So that's why I feel like being an ideal, like my ideal self, is having true passion and drive to do what I want to do, not only for my future, but for my family's future and my mentees' future too, because I also have mentees that I also want to help so that they can grow to be the best selves.
Okay. Manny, you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm living it. I'm preaching it. We're here, right? So so that means something. And I just think being involved in so many organizations like helps that come to fruition. Like, I'm in a position where I'm taking a lot of the leadership opportunities. I'm trying to build something. I'm bringing something to campus. I am a senior, so I'm going to be leaving soon. So it's just kind of like, how can I translate that into my everyday? How can I show up for myself, but also the people around me without obviously giving too much or not respecting my boundaries, things like that. But a lot of times I just want to give people the support that I never had. So if I can, do what's morally right, if I'm a good person, if I'm kind, I think that really scratches those boxes off for me.
Of course, yeah, I agree.
But moving forward, we're going to move to our third topic. Men are in isolation and they feel uncared for. More than half of men agree that no one really knows me, and 57% say no one cares if men are okay. Men who feel unknown are twice as likely to report suicidal thoughts. So my question is, why do so many men feel unseen or disconnected?
I think it just goes back into the conversations that we've been having throughout this podcast or this episode of men not being comfortable being vulnerable. And so because they're not comfortable being vulnerable, it's like, how can you feel seen if you're not even expressing what you're like upset about or you're like passionate about or anything like that? Like, it's so hard for people to see you for who you are if you're kind of like putting yourself,
You're hiding.
in the like in a little box, you know, hoping that you'll be seen, but it's like the box hasn't even been open yet for anyone to see it.
I think growing up for me, it was just kind of like I was waiting for somebody. I was waiting for someone to come like save me. You know, it's like, oh, I'm dealing with this. Like at the time, like I'm overweight. I got no friends. Like I'm not very like likable, whatever. Obviously, like looks, you know, plays a lot into that growing up as like a preteen and everything. But then you kind of realize like no one's coming. So it's like I got to show up for myself, you know? But it's difficult to get back up again. You know, when you're just beat down and you just feel like you're at the bottom of the hole, you have no one else to turn to. It's like you just got to, you know, be there for you.
Yeah, I agree. I would say when I was in like primarily high school, where there would be days where I would feel, you know, overwhelmed or bothered by someone or, you know, saying something about me, right? And I really like had the mindset, I would say like the first 3 years of high school, so freshman, sophomore, junior, of I don't care what people say about me. I don't really care. Like they got, you know, saying their stuff about me and it doesn't affect me, right? But so like when people would, you know, talk the talk, whatnot, I would just brush it over and kind of like let it go over my head. But after a while, it did tend to pile up, but I just continued to ignore it, right? And it got to a point where, like, a breaking point where, like, I just felt very, like, depressed and I felt, like, sad. And because I was brushing over it so much, I never talked about it with anyone, right? So they didn't see me as that kind of emotional person. Because they didn't see me as that emotional person, I felt like if I did become emotional and like kind of rant, they would seeing it as out of the ordinary, like, oh, like where is this coming from? And I didn't really want that to happen. I didn't want to like cause anyone like any like distress or uncomfortable feelings. And because of that reason, that piling up just started to like really mess with me mentally. And that's why it's like so important to really like communicate of things that are that bother you, because then it could stray to very negative things.
Of
right?
course, yeah. Suicidal thoughts and things like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it ties into status as well. As a man, it's like, oh, you need to be making a certain amount of money, or you need to have like a certain type of vehicle at a certain age, or need to live on your own, or you need to have a girlfriend. I feel like that was something that was like very important growing up for me. It's like, oh, I need a girlfriend. I need to like,
It's just so hard to be a provider when like even what people were able to buy houses back then, you know, and like now, even now, like the newer generation can't like, it's hard to have that provider satisfaction when you can't even like when people are struggling to provide for themselves.
And because of that like weight that is on like on men's shoulders, it feels like, hey, I can't be vulnerable right now. I need to do this. And because of that, we feel kind of unseen in the like in the emotional aspects, right? So there are times where it does get to a boiling point, right? Where there's too much water in the pot and it starts overfilling, right?
I don't know. I'd be mad if I were y'all, because it's like, I don't know, like me personally, like when people, like when I've had people being like, because I work at a condo building, right, in downtown Chicago. And I talk to people from all age groups, and they've went to college. I met people that went to college 5 years ago to 20 years ago, or even like 40 years ago, and they'll like, we've talked about pricing of college, and they'll just be like, oh my God, like I wouldn't even be able to afford school. And so it's like, being like, it's so frustrating. I would be frustrated even as a woman. Like, it's so frustrating hearing people being like, you need to be a provider, when it's like, yo, back in the day, like y'all were able to buy this and this and still have a family. Like now, before there was able to be a single income household and still be able to provide your family. Now we can't have that.
Yeah.
Like there has to be a 2 income household to even like sustain a family of 4. You need a 2 income household. And it's like, it's just crazy. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, there are those who don't understand those types of pressures that is set upon us because of just like how the economy is and the social status and like where we all come from, right? Because we're all different. And because some people don't really acknowledge it, that's how men are unseen in that aspect.
Yeah, I just feel like there's so much like comparison of like even for 40 years ago, when it's like we're not even in the same, like economically no one's in the same status. Like what your parents were able to buy with the money that they had can't even afford that house now, And so I feel like the economy's like financial issues is kind of messing up people's mentality when it comes to provider, or like, because it's so hard to access certain things, it hurts the male persona on like what it means to be a provider. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just to go back to mental health, I think a lot of men are angry. I don't know if you guys have had those experiences, but it's like when you're unable to express your emotions or even walk through them, because a lot of people aren't even like able to emotionally regulate. So a lot of times, what do you got left? You're angry. You know what I mean? I'm spiteful.
You feel frustrated.
Yeah, like I had this fallout with somebody, or I didn't get that job, or my wife left me. I'm angry. I'm upset. So of course you're gonna act out. Of course it's gonna.
And some people, like you said,
everything
they don't
else.
regulate their emotions. So I feel like that goes into like the suicidal aspect or thoughts.
I mean, I do want to say like there's plenty of resources out there. Wherever you're involved, whether it's like on campus or through the workplace. If you ever experience any thoughts like that, please speak to like a mental health professional, because there are people out there, and people do love you. So
Yeah.
And I feel like even just being okay with like being vulnerable is a big thing that we need to consider. Like even as women, like I feel like we need to be more I don't want to say more comforting. I just feel like when a male is coming for comfort, we shouldn't be like, oh, but I did this or I had this, or like I think we need to be more mindful of like comparing situations and stuff like that for the male demographic, I will say, from what I've seen. Because like even when we were talking about an event with the barbershop, right, like an event that happens at our university at NEIU, there was that conversation of like the boyfriend has to do this, and then the women were arguing of like, oh, but we had to do this. I think we need to be, as women, we need to, or as individuals, we need to be more like understanding and like not comparing.
I think nowadays it's a lot more transactional, right? Because it's like, what can I get out of this, or like, how am I benefiting, and I think, at least from my perspective, I see any relationship as like an investment. It's like I'm pouring this love in, or like I'm giving this person the support. I don't expect something like out of it, but I do want it to be reciprocated, So I think, especially when it comes to social media, a lot of times it's like, well, I need to be taken care of. Like I need my car, or like I need my money, or I need my allowance. I need to get my nails done. I got to get my hair done. So I do think there's a shift there. Yeah.
And then with those like expectations comes with the consequence of pressure, right? Say, man, I really need to do this. I need to step up. I need to get a little bit more money so I could get a better car, stuff like that. So it does come with a lot of pressure, for sure.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining us. This is Off Cue. I'm Manny.
I'm Rosie.
And I'm Isaiah.
Hopefully we'll see you guys in the next one.
If you or someone you know is struggling with their mental health, there are resources you can utilize to help. Resources available to NEIU students include student counseling services and confidential advisors, who are trained NEIU staff that provide support to students that have experienced and/or are victims of sexual assault, dating, domestic violence, and stalking. They provide safe and confidential space for you to feel heard and learn about your rights and options. Additionally, if you are experiencing a crisis and want someone to talk to, you can call or text 988. A trained and compassionate crisis counselor will talk or text with you to navigate your crisis. 988 is a confidential lifeline and available 24/7. For more resource options, click on the link below in the description.